Hi everyone, welcome. This is OG Star Wars, and we are covering Star Wars Retcons, the Sith Rule of Two. So let's go over what the Rule of Two is first, and then we'll get on with the story and expand with that more with this article and what Rise of Skywalker has done to the Rule of Two to justify Sidious's return. And that's how I see this. So let's go ahead and expand on that some more. The Rule of Two is a doctrine that is also called Benite system and known as the Chewathaituyan. I just butchered that. Chewayatuyan in Sith. So I butchered that. I apologize. Sometimes I just cannot pronounce these, the Star Wars, Sith language and other languages with Star Wars. It is what it is. And it was the guiding principle of the Order of the Sith after the after the new Sith Wars. Basically, it replaces the practices of the Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness, and which claims equally amount, among the Sith and forbid the use of the title Darth. So there's a little bit of history right there. The Rule of Two was instituted by Darth Bane, and that is expounded more on in the Darth Bane trilogy. Once a student at Khan's Sith Academy, this was basically in response to what he viewed as inevitable. So he's looking at how the Brotherhood he's seen flaws, and he recreated this the Sith rule, or he didn't recreate, but he create the Rule of Two based upon what he has seen and his ideologies, which basically then was taken and used for a millennia all the way towards Darth Plagueis. And then Darth Plagueis didn't necessarily adhere to it, but it was known, we knew of the Rule of Two during that time as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Rule of Two right here. So I'm going to make this bigger on our end. Star Wars retcons the Sith Rule of Two. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker's junior novelization retcons the Sith Rule of Two and explain what the meaning behind it really is. And this was put together by Thomas Bacon on April 28th, 2020. Star Wars has retconned the Sith Rule of Two, which had been the way of the dark side order operated for millennia. The Sith emerged from the shadows of the Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when Darth Maul killed Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn before himself being defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Always two there are, Yoda observed ominously at Qui-Gon's funeral. No more, no less, a master and an apprentice. And so there we go. There's the Rule of Two, and that was expanded on with Darth Bane and was carried on as a tradition from there. The prequel trilogy followed this format to the latter. Darth Sidious was the master, and he went through apprentices as quite remarkable rate. He seems to have already been training Dooku before Maul and believed killed, but even the Count of Serrano was little more than a place filler. So both Maul and Dooku was a place filler, because once he discovered who Anakin is, and notably the Chosen One, he wanted Anakin as his apprentice so that he can maintain power and have a strong apprentice. And with the Rule of Two, once the apprentice is strong enough and learned enough, they basically kill their master. They become the Lord or the master, and then take on their own apprentice. Palpatine had set his eyes upon Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, and gladly sacrificed Dooku in his successful attempt to seduce Anakin to the dark side of the Force, which I just went over in short. But the Star Wars sequel trilogy has not followed the formula. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, reveal the Sith redoubt of Exile, a legendary world hidden in the depths of the unknown regions. And the unknown regions were established, with the original lore through like Outbound Flight and all that. And so, they brought it back in. And we also have like the Yuuzhan Vong coming in from the unknown regions as well. Through the New Jedi Order series. And so it's brought back and it's used in this way. Their Sith cultists flourished under the rule of the resurrected Darth Sidious. The recently released junior novelization Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker attempts to resolve the issue with a smart retcon. It turns out that Jedi had misinterpreted the rule of two, as Rey discovers when she reads an ancient text contrasting the Sith and the Jedi. So now we have, the text that Rey had taken from The Last Jedi. She now reads further into that, and this is what's coming up with the retcon of the rule of two. The Prime is one, but the Jedi are many. The Sith were many, but often emerge ruled by two. The seeds of the Jedi have been sown throughout the galaxy on Ossus, Jedha, Zanzir, and others. The Sith have no seeds, since what they bury does not grow. They are despoilers of worlds and have laid to waste once fertile habitats such as Korriban, Zayast, Exegol, Asog, and others. And so that's what she reads in the scripts, or in the books, the texts. In the prequel trilogy, the Jedi believe the Sith operated under the rule of two. There were only ever two Sith, a master and apprentice. No doubt Darth Sidious was keen to encourage his error, keeping the existence of Exegol a closely guarded secret. So we'll see what comes of that in the Disney lore. I will keep track of that, even though I don't really expand on the Disney lore, just to compare and contrast between the original lore and what is being recreated now. In reality, the Sith are ruled by two. The Sith Lord sits upon an ancient throne at the heart of Exegol with an apprentice who will one day take their place, unless, like Palpatine said, Sith Lord master the power of essence transfer. This is a smart retcon it preserves the heart of the rule of two while neatly explaining the existence of an entire army of Sith cultists and legions of Sith stormtroopers. It even fits with the fact that Darth Sidious and Vader were together referred to as Lords of the Sith, because that quite literally is what they were. So now they're saying basically that the rule of two is invalid because it also included the Sith army, and which they ruled upon, and the Sith stormtroopers. And so there was really no rule of two, which does not make sense, because they say that between Lord Sidious, or Darth Sidious, and Darth Vader, they were basically the rule of two. So it still doesn't make sense, because that quite literally, I read that already. Presumably the Sith cultists were encouraged to compete for the attention of the Lords of the Sith. So now, instead of the apprentice, competing for attention of his master, learning, and wanting to surpass his master's knowledge and eventually killing him so that he can be the master himself. Now we have all these cultists who are now vying for the attention of the lords. So here you go. And so where was this during the OT trilogy, the OT, and where was this during the PT? Why didn't that emerge? Why didn't we see the Sith army or the cultists, play and also help defeat the Rebel Alliance? So it doesn't make sense. And sometimes a Sith Lord would choose an apprentice from their numbers if they provided particularly strong in the Force. So basically, see, there we go. So now they're like, okay, since you're very strong now, I'm going to train you as well. So that kind of, that breaks away from the rule of two as well. I mean, so that means they can have multiple apprentices, because if they have such a Sith a huge Sith army of cultists and stormtroopers, then you are gonna see, you know, a lot more Force sensitives being strong in the Force. So creating more apprentices just one in itself between the rule of two. That would also explain another oddity in the history of Star Wars, why the Jedi never discovered the continued existence of the Sith when these sinister beings were involved in galactic affairs. So basically, the original lore, they hid. They hid for a reason. They hid to not atone. That's not the exact word I'm looking for. They hid to like rebuild themselves. They studied the Jedi. They prepared to take over, and that was the whole thing. And that's why we have Plagueis. He started coming out. He brought on Sidious because he was, you know, powerful in the Force, powerful Force users, had a lot of abilities in the Force, and trained him. And from them together and their brilliance, and Plagueis being a Mun and a part of a big banking world and stuff, and very rich, they were able to influence the politics in the galactic, in the Old Republic. So there was a reason why they stayed hidden and why the Jedi did not know. And so in the original lore, it explains much better. If there were indeed times the Jedi came close to learning the truth, the Sith could retreat back to Exegol for some time, and a Sith master could even choose a local resident as a apprentice rather than comb the galaxy for someone suitable. And see, when we get to this, why didn't then Sidious take the younglings instead from the Jedi Order, instead of having, you know, Anakin slaying them? In the lore, Anakin slayed them because he knew that they had nowhere to go. They were orphans, and that was expanded on in the lore. Thus, the Sith remained in the shadows, biding their time until Palpatine. And Palpatine, basically, it was Darth Plagueis and Palpatine together that came out. Again, they were hidden, and they hid for a reason. They studied the Jedi. They came out. This was a plan in long making for the Sith to come out and take over the galaxy, and that happened through Sidious in the original lore. So this basically tears apart what goes on with the PT. Where were the Sith cultists and the Sith stormtroopers during that time? And also during the Galactic Civil War, when the rebellion was fighting against the Empire, were these cultists and the Sith stormtroopers during that time as well? Also, why did Anakin slay the younglings when they could have been taken to Exegol to be trained? And then also, you know, where were they during the time of the Rise, or when Luke in the new lore tried to recreate the new Jedi Order? And so it doesn't make sense. You would think that Palpatine, because he's such a smart and tactical person, this would all play in effect throughout the whole time that he's ruling, and even after his so-called death. Then during the time when the New Republic emerged, were these guys during that time as well? Again, I think the Dark Empire plays out much better, even though it still kind of contradicts. And again, the Dark Empire was written before the PT, but it still makes much sense than what is going on in The Rise of Skywalker. So what do you guys think? Please comment below and let me know what you think about this article, and where, you know, the new lore has taken this rule of two. And do you agree with it, or do you not agree with it? Myself, I don't agree with it. However, you know, it is Disney Star Wars. We already expect there's going to be a lot of retconning. So please comment below. Let me know what you think, and may the Force be with you.